How Wi-Fi turns into mashed potatoes, by user Skywanderer82. Edit, thanks for the karma and awards and gold. You've all managed to quintuple my karma and make the dopamine center of my brain go crazy. TLDR, how I fixed the internet and got invited to Thanksgiving dinner. I'm a digital nomad, and I moved into a Airbnb, a garden apartment attached to a house. I'll be it for a month on Sunday. The Wi-Fi was crappy, low speeds, drops often. Now this isn't abnormal, especially when I'm staying outside the country, but I'm in Florida. This is especially confusing because there is a Google Nest Wi-Fi access point 2 feet from my laptop. I message the hosts about it, and they have no idea what to do, although they are very kind and know they need to fix it. In these situations I can either pretend I don't know anything about tech, and hope it gets fixed eventually, or try to be helpful. I go back and forth each time. But these hosts were rather nice, let me arrive a day early, and didn't charge me for it. Plus, I'm here a month, and would like good Wi-Fi, so I offered to help. I used to do IT support, but that was a decade ago. It's amazing how things never really change. They had a Nest mesh router connected to the cable modem/router, and 2 other mesh access points elsewhere in the house, which their son had set up. As far as everyone in the family was concerned, it was plugged in and there was a blue light, so it's working. Thus they were just confused why Wi-Fi sucked on both ends of the house. The host had even ordered a separate internet service for the guest quarters on the opposite side of the house from me, as service was almost non-existent there. When I saw the access point right by me and saw my crappy signal, my assumption was that particular access point had just never been set up. It turns out that all the son had done was plugged things in physically, and never actually set up the network. We were all using the default cable modem/router network. So, I set up the mesh network, advised them on placement and that they order an additional access point, then set that up. Speeds went from 10 to 150 Mbps at the edges of the house, and the network now covers the entire house and yard. The separate internet got cancelled, saving $60/month. I then got invited to Thanksgiving dinner and to go dragon boating. Very sadly, I had other Thanksgiving plans, so I was not able to be tech support for the entire extended family yesterday. Although I still had to fix my mom's printer, ironically by rebooting their router. Now she knows what it's like, by user Calubird. I work on an IT service desk and my partner works in a food shop. She was off yesterday and kept getting called by her manager. She answered on the 3rd time and her manager asked how do I use this CCTV? Bearing in mind this is a system that she could use multiple times a day and she's worked in that shop for a good few years now so she should know exactly how to use it. She asked how to log on to it and my partner talked her through it multiple times. Turns out she was trying to log in as an admin instead of a user. Once she eventually got to the user login she couldn't remember the password, even though it is and always has been the name of the shop ID number and a full stop. My partner reminded her of this and still after multiple tries she couldn't get logged in and saying the password wasn't working. She eventually got on after about 10 minutes and hung up my partner. She came and told me and I just laughed and said yep. Welcome to my life every call. An interesting RAM installation that I've came across, by user_held_. Hi. Sorry if this doesn't read like all the other posts on here. I'm new to posting, I was more of a silent reader. Also English isn't my native language. Anyway I was recently asked by a friend of mine, let's call him T, to help a friend of him, I'll call him C, to install more RAM into C's computer. I asked no further and agreed. So while we were driving to C I was talking to him and got to know that he thinks he bought 16 GB of RAM but his system was only showing up 8. I thought okay, maybe this is just a misconfigured BIOS, nothing serious. As I got to his PC and got into the BIOS, I saw that the BIOS was only recognizing 8 GB of RAM. So I powered the machine off and took a look inside, to find 2 8 GB sticks of RAM in there. Here is where it gets interesting. I took both 8 GB sticks out and put them back in. Then I powered the PC on and went into the BIOS again, to see 8 GB of RAM again. Then I was wondering if I myself installed it wrongly. As I've put the first stick out, I saw that I've put it in the wrong way, which many of you might know is impossible, so thought I. I then tried to put it in the wrong way knowingly to see if it would make a clicking noise. It did. I then took a deeper look inside the RAM slot itself and saw that C managed to put so much force on both the RAM stick and slot to put it in the wrong way. The notch inside the slot was pressed down. I then put it in the right way to see it clicking there too. So nobody would think this slot would have survived a misuse like that, because not only is it physically damaged but maybe electrically too. Every pin got wired up differently, so maybe also data swapped with power. But as I put it in the right way and booted the machine into the BIOS again, it was showing up both of the 8GB sticks, adding up to C's full 16GB of RAM that he bought. I then just configured XMP and booted into Windows, to find all 16GB of RAM showing up and working correctly. He never had a problem since that. I think this story again shows how strong PC hardware sometimes can be. Let me know if you liked this story. I certainly did find it very interesting. Thanks for reading. Some People Just Don't Add Up, by User 11. I worked as a teaching assistant on a college course that taught how to build, upgrade, and maintain simple PC systems like you would get at home. The course was 12 weeks, with the first 2 weeks being getting to know the different parts inside a PC. After that was the usual installing Windows, upgrading, fault finding, simple networking, etc. In any group there is always one person who will struggle and needs a bit of extra support. This is the one I had to help many times with little hints and nudges to point him in the right direction throughout the whole of the course. I'll call him N. At the start of the lessons, the computers, monitors, keyboards, mice, and all the cables that the class were working with had to be brought out of the storage cupboard and put away again at the end of the lesson, as the room was used for other purposes during the week. Week 11 was typing up the notes you had ready to be added to the electronic test taken on week 12. Week 11 comes round and the tutor opened up the room for the students to use the word processors to type up their work, while the tutor and I set up some simple fault-finding tasks in the teaching room. N comes in and says the computer to type up his work isn't working. We tell him to use another and we will be through shortly. Less than 5 minutes later he's back. The other computer isn't working either. This is really odd, as the college has an IT team and the tutor is head of that team. If a computer wasn't working he'd know. Anyway, I follow N to the other room and ask him to show me which computer he was at. He showed me and I immediately knew what he had done wrong. The power light was lit on the monitor, but not on the desktop PC. I pressed the power button on the PC, waited for it to boot to login, logged in for him and went back to the teaching room. When I told the tutor the problem he just sighed and shook his head. This wasn't the last time N stuck that week. After everyone in the class had had a go at fixing the faults we set up, we packed everything away and went back to the other room to work on our teaching notes and help those that were struggling. QN. We could hear a lot of grunting coming from a corner of the room where N was sitting. The grunts quickly got louder and then the banging started. One extremely loud grunt followed by what sounded like a fist bashing the keyboard, and the tutor and I quickly rushed over to see what was wrong. N was so frustrated he was sweating and saying that the text won't go down the page. I asked what he meant and he pointed to a paragraph on the screen. He said he wanted that bit lower down so he could put something above it, then started bashing away on the space bar. See, he said, it's not moving. Instead of pressing the return key to advance a line, he's been adding spaces. It turns out N had a PC at home that he had never used, so joined the course to learn how to use it. No internet? Must be the firewall, by user ASCII forever. This incident actually happened after I retired from my university sysadmin job. I still had an email account which I checked every couple of days, and one weekend I found I couldn't check this account. System was unreachable, so I tried a couple of other systems, also saw the website was not available. The entire network was unreachable. Not a big deal for me, maybe they were doing some network upgrade or something. A couple of hours go by and I get a call from the guy that took over when I retired. He's out of town for the weekend, his boss is calling him because the link from the department to the upstream network is down, and the network engineer they are talking to is insisting that the problem must be internal, probably the firewall. Network guy wants the FW rebooted, he won't keep working on the problem unless this is done first. So, if I can, will I go in and reboot the FW? There is no one else in town who knows the systems. I'm not doing anything, so I agree. Since it's a Sunday, I arrange access to the building and head on in. Arrive, get access to the server room, find the FW, reboot. No change. For yucks, I follow the fiber connection from the FW box to edge switch, maybe a beak is bad or something. There is no link on the switch port to the upstream fiber. Okay, I swap the beak since there are a couple of extras sitting on the switch, no difference. Clearly this is not the FW box. I'm updating my local contact, who I know from the old days, who is on the phone with the network guy. He grumpily agrees to look at the upstream switch again. Local contact then tells me that NG is asking if I have a copy of the upstream switch configuration. I'm totally surprised. Why would the department have a saved config for switch we don't admin? We have a clumsy three-way conversation about this and it becomes clear that there is more to this story than meets the eye. Problem started with a scheduled power outage for electrical upgrades to the building. Everything appeared to come back up after power was restored, but the uplink did not. I had seen this multiple times when I was working at this place. The network guys would make changes to switch configs and forget to save the config. Months go by, there's a power outage, and when the switches come up, the config is incorrect, your routes are gone. Anyway, I left, the network guy eventually figured out what was wrong with the config and fixed it, an uplink connection was back. I just hope he saved the config before he went on to his next ticket.